Hi.
This is the Pulse of Life podcast. I'm Tyler.
And I'm Virginia.
As we've gone through life. Nope. You messed it up because you messed it up.
That's the old one.
Yes.
I'm so used to saying the old one. And I'm Virginia. As we've gone through life, we've learned something important.
Life is messy. It gets complicated.
But oh gosh, I can't read my eyes. Something's wrong with my eyes. But we've also learned that we can create tools to help us jump into the mess of life and make an adventure of it.
Welcome to our messy adventures of faith, family, and food.
You just needed to increase your brightness.
I did need to turn the brightness up. It's true.
You committed to that.
I did. It was a in the moment call.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely did not plan that.
Yeah.
We just went for it.
You don't plan anything except for your notes.
I was going to say 99% of the podcast. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, but I need two mics. That way I can get you the full ASMR left-right audio feeling.
Yeah.
Because, that's how they get it to kind of hear in the different headphones, is they use two microphones.
Yeah. Okay.
And so one of them's set to left and one of them's set to right. There's better, more technical
Except for
words.
the ones that they're like...
Yeah. Who knows what that just sounded like to our listeners. You actually tapped it and made the sounds.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
No sound, just taps.
Yeah.
I wonder what that sounds like.
I have no idea.
We'll listen back later.
We will. Hey, can I start our podcast off with controversy?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I was thinking to do the same thing.
Oh, okay. Oh, we'll compare controversy notes. Okay, so not long before we started, you were watching a reel where Brandon Lake's band surprised him by starting playing Higher by Creed. And apparently it was one of his favorite songs.
Yeah, it was the end of the tour.
Yeah.
And it was a prank. His band played on him as he's speaking to the crowd. And
right.
Yeah,
and
he just goes on singing.
Because it's a great song, and he should. And so anytime I think of Creed, I can't help but think of one of the greatest bands of all time. Nickelback. That's right. I was waiting. Nickelback, obviously, one of the greatest bands of all time. Here's my deal with Nickelback. All right, if you grew up in the early 2000s and you're a white
with
male,
arms wide open.
You cannot convince me that
Isn't
you
that
didn't actually like
Nickelback.
Like, you cannot convince me that you didn't like them. Now, here's the deal. Here's why Nickelback is what they are. People have literally written dissertation papers about why there's this huge cultural hate of Nickelback.
Yeah.
And it's because they were, in a lot of ways, they became the meme of a genre. Alternate rock in the early 2000s, like, they were...
Yeah.
I won't say they created it because they didn't create the genre or subgenre, but they were just such a industry standard. Like, these are the things you put in an alt rock song in the early 2000s that they kind of became a meme before memes were actually even a word we used. Me Miguel's, isn't that the actual full word?
I don't know.
You don't know that? Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's something like that.
But it just became like a joke.
Yeah, so everyone actually liked them, but because it became cool to not like them because they were just kind of like, they were just exactly what you would expect from one of their songs.
Yeah.
Was exactly what you got. Yeah. I still think they're great when it comes on because that's the kind of music I get Alexa to play or Spotify to play for me, is something in that early 2000s kind of genre. When their songs come on, I rock out to them every time.
Yeah.
And I am not ashamed of it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were all right, stay with me. Here's real controversy.
Okay.
They were poised to be the Taylor Swift of their genre, but they couldn't overcome the hate. See, Taylor Swift overcame the hate.
Yeah.
And also she spoke to teenage girls, which is where the money is anyway.
Yeah.
Nickelback was never going to speak to teenage girls in a way that wasn't creepy, and that's a whole other thing. They didn't speak to them in a way that's creepy.
Yes.
It's just,
No,
okay,
I got
keep
it.
going. Yep, I'm just saying. So they were poised to be the Taylor Swift of their time, and they failed.
Do you want to know what my controversy is about?
Yes, I do.
Taylor Swift.
Let's go. I even got us there and didn't mean to.
Yes,
come on.
Way to segue.
Taylor Swift.
We're on the wavelength.
Yes.
So Taylor Swift was just in New Orleans this past weekend.
As you do, you just go there sometimes.
It was she did her Eras tour. Eras tour. That's a weird word to say. Eras tour.
It was an error.
And man, the hate on Facebook. The hate on Facebook for Taylor Swift, because
so here was mistake number one. You were on Facebook.
I know. But I just don't understand why people hate so hard on something that somebody likes.
Yeah.
Specifically Taylor, too, because there's like an extra level. Like, ain't nobody talking about Morgan Wallen.
Oh, yeah.
And their hate, like, whatever. But, like, Taylor Swift, they're going to come out and say it.
Yeah.
And they're going to be unashamedly or unabashedly, like, rude.
Yes.
With a post or a meme, if you will.
Correct.
And let me tell you, them Swifties, they
come
ain't
back.
having it.
They do not.
They are clapping back hard.
Yeah.
Most of the time. I mean,
yeah.
Some people just don't even comment, but.
Yeah. None of that ends up in my feed.
No, but I will say, somebody asked me the other day, so have you always been a fan of Taylor Swift? Because I just mentioned her. And I guess they assumed that meant I was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always been a fan of Taylor Swift? And I was like, well, I can't call myself a true fan of Taylor Swift because I don't sit here and like listen to her music.
You don't try and dissect it to understand whether or not it was a love song or a breakup song or what time that happened in her life.
No, but I do.
Or which guy it was about.
No, but I do like to watch the videos about that.
Yeah.
Because Easter eggs are.
The real ones where people are actually dissecting it, or the actually
both.
Really good ones where people are making fun of themselves for attempting to dissect it.
Oh,
those are my
good.
favorite.
Yeah.
Those are the only ones I ever see.
But I don't think I can call myself a true fan, but I am absolutely like impressed and intrigued and fully respect her as a musician, as an artist. She is incredible.
Absolutely.
She is a musical genius. And she didn't make $1.6 billion just because she spoke to teenage girls. She's worth $1.6 billion because of how hard she works and the type of music she writes and how well she writes.
Yes.
Like,
agreed.
Like, if you see watch Miss Americana on Netflix, and you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. But the hate that people have for her is unmatched. But she seriously, like, musically is amazing. I actually watched the 3-hour Eras tour on in the movie theaters as a movie, and
You didn't go to the tour?
No, honestly, Tyler, if we had the money,
if we were, yeah,
like, I would go.
Sure.
Because watching it on screen, I just was like, wow. And I thought that, like, I don't know there was something special about the Eras tour. No, like, all of her concerts have been that amazing. This was just all of her albums. And she literally wrote 2 albums, a 2-part album.
Yep.
While she was on tour.
Yeah.
And released it, and then as her tour continues, her set list added that new album on there. Like, I'm over here like I can't even get the laundry done, and
you do have 3 children.
She's incredible, but I wouldn't call myself like a fan because I don't know her music.
Yeah.
After 1989, I kind of just. In general, at that time, like, I stopped listening to music. Not 1989, literally 1989.
The year,
album.
yes, 1989, 3 years before you were born. That's when you quit listening to music.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, like her album. After that, I think I kind of was like over listening to music in general. But yeah, just controversy. Nickelback and Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Basically the same. That's what we dissected and filled you guys in on.
Funny.
Thanks for hanging out with us on the Bowls of Life podcast, where we're here to bring you cultural hot topics, Nickelback, and Taylor Swift being the same.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well done.
Well done.
All right. What are we talking about?
What are we going to talk about today, Virginia?
We are in the epilogue.
We're in the epilogue. What does epilogue mean? I'm putting you on the spot because I don't have a definition either. I mean, it's the thing after the thing.
The thing after the thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's the best.
Prologue is the thing before the thing.
What does epi mean? I guess that's really the question.
Epilogue. So EpiPen?
Nope, that's the only epi I can think of.
Epi. I don't know.
Yeah. We're here to bring you cultural hot topics.
I don't know.
No idea. We'll have to look it up later. Latin.
Well, you know.
way to assume that's Latin.
No,
Way to go.
Assume it was Latin, but isn't like all languages. Like,
isn't every language basically Latin?
Stems from Latin.
There's some truth to that, I think. Yeah.
That's why there are some words. I was thinking about this the other day.
Except for German.
That's why there's some words, like, in a completely different language that sound the same as, like, our language.
Except for German.
Except for German, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, habits of the household. We're in the epilogue.
Yes. Written by
Justin Whitmel Early.
Way to go. You nailed it. Yes, so we're in the epilogue, and this is kind of how he started it. He said, they grow up so fast. The phrase you hear constantly from people.
Yeah.
As they refer to your kids and the things that are going on. And your internal dialogue says, this is taking forever.
Yeah. Which, not necessarily. I mean, because they do grow up fast.
They do grow up fast. But in the moment, this phase and this thing that's currently happening that's giving you heartache, headache, all the aches, your thoughts
You're feeling like it's lasting forever.
It just takes forever. And that's kind of what parenting is. It's a tension between what is and what it's not yet.
The now and the not yet.
The now and the not yet. Yeah, and so most of our days, our vision of what's going on around us and our vision of life is pretty short-sighted. Like we're focused on right here, right now, basically keep your head down and move forward. Like get through this day. And I know that's me. Everything I am doing is focused on what I'm getting to next. Almost always. Like as I'm in this moment, I'm thinking about how to wrap this one up to get into the next one.
At least you're like thinking about the next moment. I don't even think I get that far.
I mean, that's just my low grade. Make sure I do it all perfectly. Control issues of the next moment. I don't know that I'm pre-planning well per se. I'm just stressing about it.
Yeah. No, I don't think past 5 minutes from now.
Then you clearly don't struggle with enough control issues. We'll work on that for you. I can give you some of my control issues.
No thanks.
You'd love it. It's the best. No
thanks.
That's a lot of parenting though. Genuinely, it's just like we're trying to get through right here, right now. And so when we're getting through right here, right now, it can really become a weighty burden because all we can see in this moment is, oh man, bedtime went well for like 2 weeks, felt like everything was going well, and now we got a new kid that's waking up and struggling to fall asleep and all the things. And
it feels like it never ends.
It never ends, and you start to feel weighed down by it. And so Justin talks about the fact that especially in those moments, but really in any moment, to keep our heart alive so that we have hope and joy and love. I hear the greatest of those is love. To have those, we really got to keep our eye towards the future in some extent. Yeah. We've got to have a hope of what's coming, an idea, a vision of what it could be. And really, we got to be in awe of what is not yet here. And so to do that, we have to think through it, like, because now's the time we're given to form our kids. Like right now is the only moment we have to form our kids, but we don't really know where we're forming or what we're forming them into if we haven't thought about it. Like ultimately, this is the only moment we get to help them become who they'll be. Our time with them is limited and it's valuable, and that's not to be trying to cause stress and anxiety. It's actually meant to create a bit of like expectancy, a bit of intentionality, which is really where the entirety of this book, of this topic comes from. It's just this idea that we've got something coming down the road with our kids, but if we don't think about where we want them to go, where we hope we'll be able to get to, we're just kind of going to meander through it.
Yeah. And
we're going to meander through parenting them in this moment, because this moment is just about getting them from the table into the bathtub into the bed, and miss out on the opportunities that are there in the midst of getting them from the table into the bathtub and into the bed.
Yeah, I was thinking like you're teaching them from the table to the bathtub to the bed. Like you're not just getting them from point A to point B. You're teaching them how to cook a meal and how to sit at the table and have conversation and how to include people and how to make sure they clean themselves and have time management and make sure that they rest, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So that's what you're doing when you go through the motions of those things, bedtime, whatever.
Yeah. All the many habits we've talked about in the last 10 episodes or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's really one of the great truths of the Bible is the now and the not yet. It's that our world is fallen. It is broken. But the bigger, greater promise, greater truth is that God is making all things new through Jesus.
Yeah.
And we live on a normal day, parenting our children under he used the word cosmic tension of that painful and glorious truth. That the world is broken, but it is being made new. And so kind of the pain of that tension point that we live in is the now, the right now. Like we live in a lot of discontentment that, our marriage isn't running as smoothly as we'd like it to. That our kids aren't hitting the milestones that the doctor or the teacher say they should be at by this age in their development process. That our job, it just is a job. It doesn't feel like a calling. It's not a passion. It's just a thing we got to do to pay the bills, and the bills seem to keep going up, and have a discontentment with all these things going on around us. But that discontentment, in a way, serves as a proof that we were meant for something more.
Yeah.
Like the fact that we feel that and go, is this it? Is a sign that there is supposed to be something more, that we're designed for something more than the brokenness of our world. And then the joy of the tension of the not yet is it's where the pain is over. The joy comes in this tension that the pain is going to end, that Jesus is bringing new creation, that the world we're destined for is coming, that this new creation is going to happen, and that we won't have to fight with the pain of our marriage not being what it could be, of our kids not being where someone said they should be, of our job and all the things in between. Like, hey, that is coming. And we're just sitting here smack dab in the middle of it. As followers of Jesus, we're called to live as if the not yet is already reality.
Right, like God making all things new. I just had this thought. It may not be the most theologically correct, but God making all things new, is he also using us as believers to make things new by bringing the kingdom of God?
Yes.
So
zero question. Yes.
Okay, cool. I had it right then. Assuming you're right. But on earth right now, in this broken earth, we as Christians have a calling, have a purpose. We're joined with God in the making of all things new. And so that's with our children, that's with the people we come into contact with. We are bringing them the kingdom of the Lord, the kingdom of heaven. We're bringing it here until Jesus comes back and finalizes all things new.
Yeah, kind of the way I've said it as maybe sermon illustrations is it's a glimpse of what is coming,
right?
Almost like an appetizer taste. If the appetizer may not be the right word, it's that little spoonful that you got while it was cooking to make sure all the flavors were right. That's what Christians are meant to be doing, is just kind of giving people those little spoonfuls of hey, taste this. Man, that's really good, isn't it? Man, aren't you excited for when this full meal gets here?
Yeah.
It's that right there on the tip of your tongue. You can almost taste it. You can almost reach it. But man, you still got to wait for it. It's that struggle of waiting for it, but living like it's already a reality. That's where we are as
it's
parents.
The practice too for eternity. I think about practicing, whether it be a sport or an instrument. You practice it and you get it right one time. Okay, you're okay, I'm gonna do it again. And you mess up, and then you say, okay, well, I've done it right, I can do it again. You do it right one time, you don't do it right the next time, but you're continuing practicing, and that does get you better. But at the end, that's what it's going to be. And so you might as well, if you're choosing that eternity, you might as well live that eternity as best as you can right now.
Yep. Yeah, and so we're trying to live like that not yet is now.
Here.
But we're having to also navigate the pains of what actually is now of our broken world.
Right.
In a lot of ways, he kind of put it like this: the call of a Christian parent is to lift your eyes above the fog of the now and let the promise of the not yet inform our parenting today. So we're trying to just look over, just like catch that little bit of a standing on your tippy toes, look over the crowd, glimpse of what's coming, and let what we can see right off in the horizon, out in the distance, impact what we're doing right now.
That feels like a very abstract thing.
Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? Like, I know he does that thing with the ages that we're going to talk about in just a minute, but like, how do you look up from the fog?
How do you look up from the fog, specifically around parenting?
Yeah. I mean, like, what is this really, like, what is the practicality in looking up from the fog?
It's a good question. I'd say, and I think...
I feel like I'm not the only one who's going to ask this question. Like, good, that sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds...
Justin, Tyler, like, that sounds good, but what does that really mean?
Yeah. I think it means looking towards the future and saying, okay, what is it? Really, we look back and then look forward. We look at Jesus and say, okay, how did you live? What are the things you call us to live like you in?
Yeah.
And then how can I live like that now while doing it in such a way that it helps my kid recognize this is the good life?
Because you can't control the outcome of your kids. You know, what they become.
No, you can't.
Like, because he even shares a story about how he kind of went off the rails for a little bit, even though, like, his parents were clearly, like...
devoted believers.
Yeah. And did a good job from what he shares. And I thought about it, and I was like, man, I bet it was really hard for them. Those, like, 4-ish or so years that he was kind of just doing his own thing. And they're just patiently waiting for him to, you know... settle in the way that he should go, the way that they taught him that he should go, you know? But yeah, I don't know. I thought about like envisioning the future. Like, you can't envision what your kid, maybe their personality or their, you know, a little bit about their personality, but you maybe can't envision like exactly what they're going to be doing. But maybe it's more of the...
well, it's less of a what and it's more of a who. It's not what are the specifics of what's my kid's job going to be, where are they going to live, who are they going to marry, how many kids might they have. Like, those are fun things to kind of think about as a parent, for sure. But it's really a question of what kind of character is my kid going to have?
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to approach, like, what is their worldview that they're approaching answering the question of where do I want to go to school and why?
Yeah.
What kind of person will I want to marry? What kind of job will I want to take?
It's like my friend who says a lot that she's got a little bit older kids. And her philosophy is, I'm not trying to teach them what to think, I'm teaching them how to think. So you have to decide what that is, though. And I know I tell people, I've told people, like, you got to know what you believe and why you believe it.
Yes.
Similarly, you got to know what you, like, want to instill in your children and why, so that you actually are doing those things.
Yeah.
Like, you may want your child to be a good listener. But like, if you're not being a good listener and you're not teaching them to be a good listener, they're not going to be a good listener. Or if you want them to be loving and caring and considerate of others, or, you know, that sort of thing. So like, you got to teach them that. You got to give them opportunities. You got to show them that. So yeah. But if you don't think about that, you won't actually intentionally incorporate that into your daily life.
Yep.
And you think about, okay, like let's say, okay, like I'm a good person. This is hypothetical. I mean, hypothetical generally speaking. Yeah. Like someone might think like, oh yeah, I'm a good person. Like I'm teaching them good things. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But is them becoming just like you what you're aiming for? Mm. Or is it that we're all trying to do better? You know, like live a life that's pleasing to the Lord every single day, you know, striving for that.
Yeah.
Not perfection, but.
Yeah. No, he.
That makes sense?
Yeah. He made the statement that, or wrote the sentence, made the statement. Does it still make a statement when you write it? I guess. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Anyway. Trying to peek over the fog, as he put it, trying to look to the future. Really, that means having to admit that doing anything important in this area of in raising your kids, period, is really hard, and it's going to mostly be marked by failure.
Yeah.
Like, for example, practicing habits of the household, probably mostly going to be marked by failure. There's going to be more failures than successes, but it's in those failures that you'll learn and grow, not just them, but you, and you'll grow together. Mm-hmm. But even though that there are all of these failures, even though it is really hard, looking to the future, trying to figure out how to best parent your kids towards Jesus, is about being convicted that it's worth continuing to try again and again, even though it is really difficult and there are lots of failures on the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me think about baby-led weaning.
Mm-hmm. Tell people what that is.
Okay, so baby-led weaning is just a trendy term for feeding your child the same things that you're eating, not pureeing them, but just cooking them and cutting them appropriately so that they can grab it and eat it from 6 months old.
Yep.
And if you need to know more, I have a little booklet on our website.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Yeah. But anyways.
Bowlsoflife.com.
Bowlsoflife.com. Yeah. Plug. But it's going to be really hard to teach your child to eat if you can't handle the mess. Mm. Because if we're spoon feeding them, we control the mess.
Yes.
And, you know, this is not about how you feed your child right now. But, like, when you spoon feed your child, you're controlling the mess. They have no
agency.
They have no agency. They have no autonomy over what's going in their mouth, whether they like it or not, you know, and whether they're full or not, they're being shoveled something into their mouth. Whereas when you go through baby-led weaning or, you know, feeding your child like that, with a child-led approach, like they're getting messy because they're learning how to do it. They're going to get it in their hair. They're going to get it in their ears. They're going to get all over their clothes. And you're going to feel like you have to give them a bath every single time they eat.
Yep.
But guess what?
Probably do need to give them a bath.
Yeah. They are learning how to do it.
Mm-hmm. On their own.
On their own. And they're seeing you and how you eat. They're sitting right next to you and they're seeing you how you eat. Mm-hmm. And they're watching mom and dad pick up the spoon, put it in their mouth, chew, swallow, etc., etc. But if you're not willing to let them get messy and let their clothes get messy and let their bodies get messy and the floor get messy and the high chair get messy, then like it's not going to go well. Like they're not going to learn. But it's worth the mess because they do learn. They catch on. So like, I don't know, that's what it made me think of, because it's like this, our marriage being hard, our relationship with our children being hard, these disciplines being hard, disciplining with love, you know, loving discipleship is hard, but it's all worth it. All of that is worth it. So that is one of the ways that he says to lift your eyes above the fog. It's like to validate that it's hard, but keep going.
Ultimately, it's an act of faith to raise your kid with an eye towards the future, because you're looking to the future and then reverse engineering how to get there in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so we're just stepping out on faith that what we're reverse engineering based on the wisdom of others around us and how we know our kid and the Holy Spirit, we're saying that's going to take us there. But we don't know it for a fact.
Yeah.
We're just stepping out in faith, which is really what parenting as a Christian is. It's stepping out in faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so our theology, our good theology, ultimately always needs to end or be met with a good practice, which is, again, what this whole book has been based around, is taking our theology and putting it into practice. And so we work backwards from a vision of the not yet, of who our kids could become, to decide the habits of the now that will get us there well. And so to help us kind of reverse engineer that, he suggests a few different things. The first one is an age chart. And so he spends a lot of time talking about this in this final chapter. In a lot of ways, I think the age chart helped spawn this book's existence.
Yeah. Spawned.
Spawned. A spawn. You don't know what a spawn is?
No.
A spawn is like our children are your spawn, or our spawn.
Oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, your offspring. There.
Yeah, no, I know, like the spawn of Satan.
You
know that phrase?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Spawn. Okay.
Yeah.
I just hadn't heard it used like that, so I thought you meant spurn.
Spurned?
Like spurned.
To spurn something, it would be like to reject it. I'm spurning that.
No, hold on. Doesn't matter. I'll look in a dictionary later.
It's fine. Okay. We're learning words tonight together. Nickelback is awesome. Learning words. We're learning lots of things.
Okay.
But yeah, he talks about an age chart a lot in this. And so the age chart is essentially to say it is 2024, that Virginia and Tyler are 32. I hit 33 here in less than a month now. But we'll just go with 32 for sake of conversation. Luna is 5, Ezra is 2, and Stella is not yet 1. How old will Luna be when we turn 50?
Oh, I can't do that math.
Okay, so how long until we turn 50? How about that math? 32, 50.
7, I don't know.
18, yes.
18.
Close. All right, so 5 plus 18?
22.
Correct.
Wait, 23.
Yeah, 23, sorry, yeah.
She's going to be 23?
When we turn 50. How old will Ezra be?
Oh my gosh, she's going to be an adult. I don't know, whatever. Minus 2.5 years. 21?
2.5. Well, I mean, 2. We were just going round numbers. 2 plus 18 is 20, yeah.
What? You just confused me. Don't do math. Don't make me do math.
Round numbers. No. 2 plus 18. 20.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I was going backwards.
And then Stella would be 18.
Right.
Yeah. So when we turn 50...
Okay, we're not as old as I thought.
Stella will be 18. Meaning she'll be somewhere in probably senior-ish year of high school.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just imagine across 18 years, like... That's what we got with Stella. By then, Luna will have already been out of the house for 5 years.
I don't want to think about that.
Ezra will have been out of the house for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're assuming 18's
right.
out of the house. But yeah, and so it's then taking and looking and go, okay, based on where everyone is at certain times, what are the wise things for us to be doing in those year brackets? Like based on when Stella is actually big enough to enjoy Disney. Is that when you go do something like that?
Disney.
That's the first thing that came to mind. We're not going to Disney more than likely. But but just like things like that. It's like where do things, big picture things fit? And then just continuing to work backwards of, okay, well, that was really big picture, but what's like some smaller scale things that we can do? And then he kind of goes from there. It's like, okay, well, part of making those decisions might be based around, well, you kind of need to know what your family values are.
Yeah.
And
like what's going to be important in their teen years, what's going to be important in their preteen years. Mm-hmm. what's going to be important in their late teen years, whatever. So yeah, kind of looking at that. And he even like talked about like this is prime time to be going on family vacations, like you said at Disney, or like prime time to be having intentional and important conversations.
When are we considering rites of passage kind of things, like whatever those rites of passage are, whether that's cars, phones, what does screens look like in this age and that age, what does school look like, because I mean, like, for us, we're homeschooling right now, but that doesn't mean that will always be what we're doing for all the years. So it's like, okay, what does it look like in these years? And just kind of working through that. And then again, like having a set of like, what are the things we're about as a family, like, and you know, that's a hard one to sit down, and it's not a one-time sit down, figure these out. This is what we value. Like, that's an ongoing conversation that you'll need to have. It's something I started a couple of years ago because of a book I was going through. I jotted a few notes down and have not looked at them since. So they need a review and a conversation.
Is that from the book Intentional Fatherhood?
Yes, Intentional Fatherhood by John Tyson. Highly recommend. Yeah.
For fathers.
Yeah. Also talks about having like a family motto. As actually John Tyson again. He was talking about a story where he pastors in New York City, but they lived kind of outside the city, so it was a long journey back and forth. And so one day I think he was just feeling the weight of it, and his son's in the car with him, and he kind of apologized, like, "Hey, I'm sorry, like, this is our life that we drive this way and this far every single Sunday." And his son just looked at him and was like, "No, we're Tysons. We do church, or we plant churches," or something like that. And it was in that moment he was like, that is a value of our family, like church and making sure other people connect to Jesus. Like that's part of who we are. That's a thing we value. And just kind of working through, like, what are those things? So it's not just like these abstract, like ethereal, like, well, we value faith, family, and food. Like, okay, maybe that is what you value, but what do you mean when you say faith, family, and food?
Or even just like, we value our beliefs in Jesus. Sure. But like, what actually does that mean? Yeah,
why do you value that? What impact does it make on
your life,
your
and
daily
your choices,
life?
And your choices.
Yeah. What habits are you forming around that?
Yeah. Which, I mean, we've never really said. I mean, you kind of did that, like I said, but.
Yeah, we have some semblance of some things, but we don't have anything codified, to use a fancy sounding word. Last one's making a family rule of life. I don't know if we've really used the phrase rule of life in this series, in this book, or not, but essentially a rule of life is just, how do we live? Yeah. Like, essentially this book is a rule of life building book. He just doesn't always call it that in the book. But it's kind of, okay, what are the actual practices we do is what a rule of life is in a lot of ways. And so ultimately the goal behind all of this is to remind us of the glory of what we're called to. Is to remind us, like, okay, where are we trying to get to? What's the awesome, beautiful parts that draw us to those things? Why do we want to get there? Oh, because we value planting churches because we're Tysons. Or whatever, like, and so because we value planting churches and, seeing people in the city of New York who are far from God reach God, then we drive an hour and a half in all of this long distance every single Sunday. We drive this, because we value that, and so we're being called to remember, or we're being reminded of what we're called to ultimately, so that we can then act on it today. Yeah. Ultimately, you cannot change in the future. You can only change in the present, because the present is the only moment you've got access to. I mean, and kind of what Justin's point with saying that is like, when you can't sit here and change who you'll be later. Yeah. You can't just sit here and change who you were in the past.
Yeah. Like, I'll be on time to my kids' ball practice. Yeah. Next time. You can't change that right now. You can only be on time right now.
Yes. Yeah. And you can, now when it comes to things like that, like the best way to make sure that does change in the future is to start doing things right now that will enable you to be on time in the future. Like set an alarm clock and
put it on your calendar.
Put it on your calendar. Like all the things.
Mark it off on your work schedule or whatever.
I mean, take anything you want. It's ultimately, we have to put into practice, like imagining that whatever not yet we want to get to in a way that calls us to change it in the now. That's really the point.
You can't say sorry tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you can say sorry now.
Yeah, exactly. Starting tomorrow, I'll do such and such.
Yeah. Or like waiting till tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. No, the comedy of waiting for New Year's to start a goal. The comedy of, well, we made it to March and I didn't finish I fell behind on my Bible reading plan, so I guess I'll pick that up next year. I'm sorry, it's March. Just keep reading.
Yeah.
You got months to go. Why would you wait until January of 25 if you fell behind in March of 24?
Yeah.
That's just silliness. Like, yeah, we don't change in the future. We change by what we're doing right here, right now. Because formation is a long game.
Yeah.
Like, that's really what one of the key principles behind all of it is, like forming your kid into who they should be, and more importantly, or not more importantly, but foundational to forming your kid into who they should be is forming yourself into who you should be.
Oh yeah.
Is just recognizing like it takes a long time and there's going to be more failures than successes in the journey. Like that's just normal. It's actually really acceptable to know that there's going to be more failures than successes because the Spirit can still use both to form you into who you need to be. Like the Holy Spirit doesn't need you to succeed at perfectly reading your Bible in 2025 so that you'll be a better believer. You can fail at perfectly reading your Bible and He can still use that to motivate things in you, to change things in you, to whatever it was that was the roadblock in you accomplishing it in 2025. Like, He may actually use you failing at it in 25 to change that roadblock in you so that in the future, you're more apt to spend daily time reading the Bible.
Yeah, and if you're just going to quit, like, in 2024 to continue your example, you're not going to keep doing it in 2025.
Right. Yes, yeah, no, if you're just giving up in the right now in hopes of something being better in the future, that's not reality. That's not how it works.
Yeah, that's across so many things in our life.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I just use Bible because that's a easy, relatable one. We could also talk about the gym or things like that. We won't get too hard into the deep ones that'll make you hurt, or as the Baptist-y thing goes, preacher was really stepping on my toes today.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I'll dance on them next time.
That's what Brent says.
Oh, yeah. Reading your emails. Yeah, that's true. Habits of the household are less about right now. They're less about making your kid this thing that you want them to become right now.
Well, it's all, like we said before, it's not about controlling your children.
Correct. It's about what God will accomplish in the not yet when He uses your attempts at these habits.
Yeah.
Not your perfection at them, just your attempts at them.
Yeah.
It's about what He's going to accomplish through them.
We plant the seeds. No. Is that right? We plant the seeds. God causes the growth.
Yep.
And that verse right there in Corinthians.
Yeah. I planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth.
Like, the growth is literally dependent on God.
Yeah.
Like,
the farmer plants
the seed. Because you can plant the seed and you can water it.
But he don't know how it grows.
But, like, God could still...
That was Jesus.
Yeah. God could still... I'm not saying He wouldn't allow it to grow, but it may grow on its own time.
Yes.
You know, on His time. Like a different timeline than what you would think.
Yeah. Out in West Coast, like... Washington, Seattle kind of areas. They're known, in California too, I think, for some of those big, massive redwood trees.
Yeah.
Some one or two of them are supposedly either the oldest or largest trees in the world. There's actually a known, and I think they have a term for it, but a known thing where a lot of times small new trees will struggle for a very long time to get sunlight. And because they're struggling down there, because there's these massive redwoods absorbing all the light because they're so high up and they're just blocking out the sun, basically, as far as that little sapling is concerned. Well, then it has to really stretch out roots very far and wide so that it can get everything it needs, because it's not getting everything it needs right there in that location. So it's digging roots down really deep. And so when a big storm comes along and inevitably knocks down the big trees, this little tree can then shoot up because now it's getting a lot more sunlight. It'll shoot up and it'll stand through storms because it has such deep roots. But what happens for those trees that haven't been there for a while, those little saplings that haven't been there for a while and haven't had to stretch their roots out, they also shoot up. But the next big storm that blows through, they immediately get knocked down because they don't have the root system to hold them up. Because they didn't deal with the adversity long enough of having something else blocking out the sun, essentially. They didn't deal with that adversity long enough to be able to dig deep enough roots to then be able to sustain when growth came much later in their life. I think in a lot of ways, habits of our household are kind of like that. They're digging deep roots in the times of the difficulty of getting your kids to have a conversation at mealtime. The difficulty of convincing your kid that this limit on their amount of screen time today is actually good for them,
or even the hold off on allowing them on social media, or
pick your thing,
activities, and
the adversities of that in the now are for the benefit of the growth in the future. That's what this really comes down to. It's building for that, and that's kind of the gospel posture of a parent, is opening yourself up to be hurt by your children and hurt by the difficulties of this moment while committing to love them in the long run. And part of loving them in that long run is setting them up for the win. For the habits of the household, your kids aren't going to remember the specifics of all the things and all the ways, the little conversations, the little things at bedtime or wake up time, little moments in the car. Like, there will be some that stick out in their memory in the long run, but the mass majority of them, like, they're not going to remember any of those specifics, but what they'll remember is your intentional presence and your practice of trying. Like, they're going to remember how much you tried, even when things went wrong and failed. Like, with hindsight and getting into those adult years, even the failures, a lot of times, assuming you gave it enough of a go over the years again and again, like, they're going to remember those and see them for what they were, for you doing your best. And they'll most likely appreciate that. It really, it's not us and it's not our habits that are ultimately going to form our children. It's Jesus' grace. He's going to walk them through the best and the worst days as he does for us. He'll use what we offer as parents, and he'll multiply it in ways that we couldn't. Both the times we succeed and the times we fail. He'll gracefully cover over our failures and use them for good. And so we don't have to bear the weight of being fully and finally responsible for who our children are and who they become. But at the same time, we can carry the joy of knowing what we do has meaning. What we do is not lost, and God makes use of it. You know, our real role of a parent is to become somebody who keeps looking to Jesus. And then as our kids look to us and they look to our habits, we're going to be pointing them to God the Father who loves us, and says, and then we get to say to them, let's become like him together.
Imitate me as I imitate Christ.
Exactly. That's part of how Justin kind of ends the book, is talking about that practice with his dad. The Fred Rogers one?
No.
No. Okay. A different quote. Okay, go.
Yeah. Hold on, I gotta get to it.
That's okay. You find your place.
Yeah.
I'll talk to fill the dead space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good at filling dead space. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I can fill dead space. Do, 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 do.
Oh, it is the Fred Rogers quote.
I knew it was. I knew there wasn't another quote there. That's okay. It's still funny.
I thought it was Justin's quote.
No, he talks about Fred Rogers at a graduation ceremony. I assume like a college graduation.
I don't know who Fred Rogers is. Is that Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers.
Okay, I didn't know his first name was Fred.
That's Fred Rogers. Did you know that Fred Rogers was I want to say it was Episcopal priest? He was a priest in some denomination or another. I want to say Episcopal, but I could be wrong.
We'll have to look it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of awesome things.
So if
Mr.
you're like
Rogers.
me, Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Fred.
Hang out in his neighborhood. He said at a graduation, he said, from the time you were very little, you had people who smiled you into smiling. People who have talked you into talking. Sung you into singing. And loved you into loving. Habits of the household, they're nothing more than cultivating rhythms of looking at the God who is always looking back at us and encouraging our kids to do the same.
Mm-hmm. I love that quote.
Well, as we have made it to the end of the book, any final thoughts, Virginia?
We could start back at the beginning. And continue to improve our habits.
Yeah.
To form our children.
Yeah, he actually, I think, said in the prologue of the book...
to pick it up when you need it.
Yeah, he hopes it is less of a book to read from front to back and more of a guide to use when needed, especially... Like we've said, I think on a previous episode, the end of every chapter has like just the quick summary and then all the practical, like you can consider doing something like this tips.
So again, as we've said before, like if you haven't bought the book and you're like, oh yeah, we listened to the podcast, it was enough, which I know we
talk a bunch.
Yeah, we talk about, well, and you may not have time right now to read the whole book. And so this gets you kind of some information from the book. But we definitely highly recommend the book to have in your house so that you can refer back to it and get those good tips. And utilize the intentionality that you might be motivated with for reading this book. So
that's good. Well, we'll take a quick break and be right back with you guys. Hey, Virginia. You got an epilogue themed recipe?
Well, it is the perfect time for fires outside.
So not an epilogue, but a fire. I like fires.
Yeah. So go have a fire pit night with a friend. With friends.
You just got one. It's okay if you just have one friend.
Well, thinking
I'm just
like
picking
families. And, when you go to get your s'more stuff, you typically get graham crackers, chocolate, marshmallows. Go ahead and get you some marshmallow cream.
Go on ahead.
And strawberries.
Yes.
And then what you're going to do is you're going to take that strawberry, cut the green off. You could dip it into the marshmallow cream or you could just slather it on there. Roast it over the fire. Let it bubble up a little bit. Take a big old bite out of that marshmallow strawberry. Bon appetit. It is so good. You
can also put it on a s'more with the chocolate and the graham cracker. Also excellent.
Yeah, you did that, didn't you?
Yes, I did. I think that was the main way I ate them.
Oh, just the tart sweetness of the strawberry and then the marshmallow cream. So good.
It was so good.
It was so good. I saw that on a reel, an Instagram reel. So, thank you.
I love
Instagram.
It's good. Well, thank you guys for joining us on this podcasting journey through Habits of the Household.
We don't know what we're going to do next.
Oh, yeah, we don't. But I do know what the next episode will be on. I have created a journal that has I won't even call it a book, a small pamphlet written at the front of it.
Booklet.
Booklet. Ooh, booklet. Yeah, sounds better than pamphlet.
Yeah.
I'll take it. A booklet written at the front of said journal. And so I think on the next episode, we're going to dig into why a journal has a book in it and what this journal's about, because it's not just blank pages, and all the fun stuff of that. Yeah, it'll be fun. And so if you're curious, because by the time you're listening to this, it'll be a few weeks removed, it is already up on bowlsoflife.com. It is our very first paid resource on there.
It's done?
Yeah, I haven't
actually... By the time
they listen. I haven't published it officially in real time, you and I time.
I gotta read it.
But yeah, that's actually the last thing I'm looking at, just to have your eyes on it.
Y'all, Tyler wrote a book.
Book's a strong word. It's not even close to
booklet
length. But anyway, so I'll use that to segue over to what you guys can do for us as you leave this episode. Head over to our website, bowlsoflife.com, to become one of our monthly supporters. We now have there are plural supporters. Yeah. There's not just one on there, which means we have to up our game on the things that are on the membership part of the website.
Yep.
Our supporter part. I want to call it membership.
Yeah, supporters.
Membership's a weird word.
And you can also do a one-time gift.
Yes, you can do a one-time gift. We will send you some love too if you do a one-time gift. Haven't figured out exactly what that is because nobody's done a one-time gift yet. But if you do, we will figure out exactly what that love is.
Merch.
We'll send your way. Journals, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yay! Thanks for supporting us.
Yeah. Appreciate you guys joining us on this journey of messy adventures in
faith, family, and food.